Hey kids, do you want to know the best way to make your culture look like the best culture in all the world? And no, it's not simply showing the magic of friendship or genuinely showing basic human decency. It's simply make every other culture look worse by comparison. This is Dragon Quest. The episode begins with the main six getting ready for a great dragon migration, which honestly appears to be one of the most metal things this show has ever produced. But after the main six make fun of Spike for not being what they consider to be a real dragon, he begins to have something that the show really touches on. An identity crisis. Spike knows next to nothing about his culture. Twilight offers her assistance and even her 2 cents about it, but unfortunately Spike just can't find any information. So he does the one plausible thing that he could do in this situation. He decides to go on the dragon migration himself in order to discover what it truly means to be a dragon. And don't think for a second you're going without me! So after a long, treacherous venture into the great unknown, Spike eventually reached the end point of his destination, Dragon Country, where he meets a bunch of teenage dragons, chief among them, Tarble. Now here's something I bet you never thought a My Little Pony reviewer would ever do in the history of the show: actually defend Tarble. First off, Tarble isn't technically the first one to actually start ridiculing on Spike for not living up to dragon expectations. He just simply jumps on the bandwagon later on. Secondly, he does offer Spike a chance to prove himself among the other dragons, and offers multiple ways to prove himself. And when he does eventually prove himself to be a worthwhile dragon, he seems to genuinely accept him as one of their own. Unfortunately, that's where my praise for the guy stops, for this next scene. Garble and some of the other teenage dragons decide to bring Spike along for what appears to be a raid. They're raiding phoenix eggs in order to do something or other with them. But the plan goes awry, and the teenage dragons end up getting stuck in a tree. But Spike manages to get one of the phoenix eggs before it actually hatches. And then Garble does the unthinkable and tells Spike to smash the egg. Spike has a moment of clarity and realizes that doing such an act would compromise his morals, as well as he relates to the egg also being abandoned. The dragons try to persist to attack, but luckily Spike's friends are on his side. And they do the one thing that ponies always do when faced with terrible dragons.
Yeah? What's that?
Run away!
Don't worry, Spike. I will show you what it means to be a toon versus a dragon. For the record, I didn't hit you because you're a dragon. I hit you because you're a terrible human being, and you deserve all the punishment you get after this act. And to think I stood up for you. Well, Twilight gets them all out of there with her magic. Spike realizes a good, valuable lesson: it's not what you are, but who you are that defines you. And we get a nice little cameo from a little chickling. That was Dragon's Quest. And this suffers from a lot of problems that other episodes in this series suffer from. Mainly speaking, that it shows the Pony Society as this perfect all-being place, as opposed to everywhere else where it seems like it's a complete shithole. But I got to defend the dragons in one particular case. It is mentioned that the dragons are in fact teenagers, not full-grown dragons. And even though we do see full-grown dragons, that's not the main focus. Spike chose these dragons because they're teenagers similar to his age group. So it's unfair to judge entire dragon culture by just these idiots. But all the same, I did enjoy this episode. We got to learn a little bit more about how dragons act and behave. And Garble, while a terrible person, isn't all bad. He just has very high prejudices. I know that sounds worse than what it is, but I'm losing my train of thought here. Anyway, this episode definitely has its flaws, but I would definitely give it a worthwhile watch, because it is indeed one of the better Spike episodes. So, with that being said, I'm the Cartoon Gentleman, brought you Organized Chaos, and I just realized I'm in Dragon Country. Yeah, I should probably start running now.